So this day, whenever someone says, "Thus says the Lord," you can recognize what God he serves by what comes out of his mouth. You can recognize what God he serves by how he treats people, by how he lives, by how he conducts his business, how he conducts his affairs. Because it is not just the voice anymore. Christ in you is the hope of glory. Christ in you. The last thing the Bible is for is to show us how to live. Don't throw nothing at me. Jesus wants to live his life through us. When I read the Bible, I say, "Oh my goodness, that's what's happening in me. That must be Jesus shining through me." I would like to, you know, the old book burning movies and such. I'd like to get all those bracelets and say, "What would Jesus do?" Throw them in a pile and burn them. Because the issue is not what Jesus would do. The issue is yield to him so he can do whatever he wants. When we say, "What would Jesus do?" we think, "What would Jesus do?" Think, as Winnie the Pooh would say. Think. And think of the best thing you can think of that Jesus would do, and then do it. Well, you have no idea if that's him or not. If we have the mind of Christ, then we develop the mind of a beginner so that he can do whatever he wants. I love that verse in Habakkuk that says his mercies are new every morning. Every day is a new day. Every day is a day of new wonders, of new discovery. You know, the old grumpy preacher said, "There's nothing new under the sun." But I'll tell you what, for this old guy, everything is new all the time. I'm just this finite guy trying to understand an infinite God, and everything is new. It's new all the time. New things to discover, new mercies to find, new ways of giving and ministering and healing and restoring. You know, we're going to spend an eternity of discovery of the vastness of God. So don't be sidetracked by a bitter, old, angry preacher who says there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is new, of course. So Dan, I want you to mess them up like you messed me up. We talked about last night, a lot of you asked the question, how do we practically apply this stuff? We're going to get to that in a minute. Dan will start it actually, but
let's pray. Well, I'll try to make it brief.
No,
let me give you a bit of context, because most of you don't know me, and those of you who do probably wish they didn't. So, I'm a lifer when it comes to music. I've been involved in music since I was 6. But I'll try to fast track the story. I was saved when I was 6. My 2 uncles were called the Palermo brothers. They were, you wouldn't know who they are probably, but they helped start Youth for Christ, and they also were the musical arm of the Billy Graham Association. So I got saved under their ministry, and then because they were musicians, they encouraged me to follow music, which I did. So I had a rich kind of spiritual heritage because our home was kind of a stopping ground after Billy Graham crusades. They'd come and stay at our house, and so Billy and my uncles and my dad would be in the living room, and you know, I didn't really realize what kind of history was happening in my home and what an impact it would have on me years later. But anyway, I got involved in music and wanted to be a professional musician. So back in the 70s, in the early 70s, I got an opportunity to move to Los Angeles to work with a guy named Andre Crouch, who was, do you guys know who he is? Okay, right, anyway. And he was instrumental in really giving me an opportunity to pursue my career. And spent years, during the early days of the Jesus movement, I was there when Keith Green got saved, and, you know, it's just, I'm as old as dirt, so. Fast forward to the 1990s, having spent a lifetime in the music business, Renewal hit in Toronto. I don't know if many of all of you know about the renewal movement that happened there, but God moved me to Toronto about a year before Renewal hit, and I got to know John and Carol Arnott before Renewal happened. And then Renewal happened, and I got into this thing called worship. And it wasn't difficult for me. That move of God was considered the Father's blessing, and everybody was getting introduced to to the Father heart of God. And I thought, well, I don't have a problem with the Father heart of God. I like the Father. It's his kids I'm not really crazy about. So I needed help with that, which that 10 years of service with Toronto helped me love his kids, not him. I already loved him. But I got involved in worship music, and did a lot of, 10 years of almost nightly worship. And it became, an important part of who I was and what I did, and it impacted my life, and it was lovely to use my music as a way to express my love for Christ. And I had come to know Don Milam during this period of time, and that was a fortuitous meeting. But after Renewal, after I left after 10 years, you got to understand, I'm kind of the poster child for being, a royal discontent. I'm seldom happy with the status quo, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. I kind of don't mind, but it bothered me after 10 years of worship. I was going, what's this for? What are we doing? Why is this so important? Why has there become an industry that's developed around worship? I mean, it seemed insidious to me that all of a sudden, we had charts, we had music charts, like radio charts, and depending on where you were in the chart, depended on how relevant of a worshiper you were. And I'm thinking, this is so wrong. I mean, this is nuts. But I realized that we began to worship, and that seemed to be a huge problem. But then I started working at this little church out where we live, and God started changing my mind and my heart about what worship is. And I would ask people, I'd say, how was worship? And this is very telling. How was worship this Sunday? And they go, you know what, I didn't like it very well. I didn't get much out of it. The music was too loud. I didn't like that song you did. Or I really liked it, God, I just, it blessed me so much. And I'm thinking, since when is it about what we think? Like I was starting to get really disturbed by the fact that when you ask somebody about worship, it was all about what we got out of it. And isn't it for God? Isn't it worship for Him?